You may well have recognised that opening scene of the bench looking out over Elf Lake here at Les Quis, and that's because about a year ago myself and Ian were out here doing a bit of fishing and filming. Fast forward to June 2024, I'm back once again to do exactly the same and hopefully catch many more fish. And in this video it's going to be an ultimate guide to Les Quis, so whether you're visiting for the first time or been many times, everything you need to know is in this video. Whoa. Well, hopefully from that intro sequence you'll have seen that the week ahead is action-packed and full of loads and loads of fish. But rewind to Friday when I arrived. I got here a day earlier than everyone else because as I'm the cameraman, I needed to film everyone else arrive on the normal method, which is on the coach. Picks you up from the Kent area and you don't have to worry about any of the driving, any of the crossing. It's all sorted for you, meaning that when you get here, you're fresh-faced and ready and full of energy, unlike I was on the Friday. So off the coach, we will then have a walk around the complex to get our bearings of the place, see what lakes are here. After the walk around, we reconvened back at the lodge, which is ideally is nice and central to the whole complex. So it doesn't matter where you are when you're fishing for the week, everyone comes here for your food and drink or just a social area, and it's not like one person's miles away and everyone else is really close. You're all pretty much equidistant from the lodge, which is ideal. So we had the briefing from Bob there, a bit of a lowdown of what to expect for the week, where to fish, good spots and things, but it's also where we then did the draw for where everyone was going to fish for the week. I came out in the draw for the Bay Lake, and I came out third in that draw and chose the swim Moonshine, which is exactly what I'm going to show you now. So this is where I'm starting my session. This is classed as Moonshine left. It's kind of like a split bay, and that's the way that Bay Lake is made up. Little Rash stayed with me for a bit as well. So I've got this side of the lake, and if I pan round, you've got Moonshine right, which I've also got access to, because as it stands, because I'm in this spot, there's absolutely nobody is fishing in that swim or anything. The next one's round will be on the next bay. So from where this bay starts, all the way around, is my water. So it's kind of like I'm fishing my own lake for the whole time. Even though it's a social place, I'll be seeing everyone else later on. It's quite nice that this, to me, just looks like I've got my own little slice of heaven where no one else can interrupt me. So loads of options. Obviously got the bay all the way over into the far end. I've got a nice tree line here. If I go back into this side, I was just chatting with Bob because one of the things he'll do is he'll show you your swim, some good spots to maybe start on. Obvious ones are going to be pads, carp love pads, but also there's just such a good tree line on the far margin. There's a few spots which has done fish before, so it makes sense to start there, like a sunken tree just a bit. A little indent there in the tree line, another one there. So yeah, lots of options, and of course don't ignore the mid water. I'm looking forward to this. Good little spot. So whilst I get all my kit down into the swim and set up for the session, I'm going to hand you back over to Bob, who's going to do a quick run through of the whole complex and what each lake has to offer.
Hi, I'm Bob. Welcome to Les Quis. I've been fishing this complex since I was 7 years old. Worked here for the last 12 years. So over that period, I've seen all mannerisms of angling and tactics. So here's 5 of my top do's and do nots. Number 1, take local knowledge at your own cost. Obviously, I've been here many years. My bailiffs are on site week in, week out, and we see everything. We see what's going on throughout the complex from week to week, and we know what's working at the time of your trip. So don't be afraid to ask any questions for myself or the staff members. So number 2, regarding equipment, we do advise people to bring the appropriate fishing rods and reels. Over the last few years, we've noticed people falling into this trend of using 9 and 10 foot rods. All of a sudden, your casting distance is hindered and you won't get the most out of some of your swims. Some of the casting ranges here will be about 100, 110 yards. Them shorter rods won't put you in the areas where the fish like holding out, and all of a sudden you hinder your own fishing for the week. However, it's worth putting one in the bag because a little bit of stalking with a shorter rod is always a great tactic on this complex. There's plenty of little nooks and crannies where 12-foot rods aren't quite the right rod to be using, in small, tight little nooks and crannies where the 9-foot rods are perfect for. So it's always worth having one, but I would highly recommend to have 3 12-foot rods as your main rods. So number 3, do not just rely on a pod. As far as I'm concerned, it does restrict you to only putting your rods in one area. Many of the swims here offer many different options to be able to cast your rods into a multitude of different areas of the lake. And there's always a little option where you can put your rod in the swim next door to you. However, if you've just got a pod, you're unable to do so. Wherever, if you like using the pod, it's always worth just putting 1 or 2 bank sticks in to give you that extra option to cover more water. So number 4, guys, do keep active. Don't be afraid to recast and rebait really often. For me, especially here on the Bay Lake like I am this week, I'm trying to keep bait going in and recasting perhaps every 45 minutes to an hour. The fish here aren't afraid of being cast at. If I see a bit of bubbling or see a fish show, I'm putting bait straight on top of them and often nicking very quick bites doing so. And lastly, number 5, please guys, do enjoy yourself here at this complex. So that brings me on to my 5 don'ts. Number 1, don't be worried about the draw. Honestly guys, there's not a bad swim on the complex, so the ball out the hat is nothing to worry about. Number 2, and perhaps for me one of the most important ones, don't be afraid to ask for help from either me or any of my on-site staff. We see what goes on week in, week out, and we're also here to help with any advice regarding fishing rigs, bait tactics, baiting tactics, even if it's the little bits in life, a bit more casting tuition or anything like that, we're here to help and ensure you get the best from your holiday. So number 3 guys, don't scrimp on your bait. It's so important here at Les Quis to keep your feed going in, lit and often, to keep the fish interested in your bait and interested in your swim. I advise to have at least 25 kilos of bait for the week's fishing. Number 4 guys, don't stay static. The amount of times here that I've been on the mooch, having a look early morning, late evening, seeing a few fish roll or bubble in an empty swim, move on to them and catch fish really quickly. Here on the complex, we always make sure there's empty swims, so if you want to move, it is possible. And last guys, number 5, don't overcomplicate things. Keep things simple. Sometimes simple is best.
So rewind back to the very start of the trip. Now I was predominantly only fishing the evenings through to mornings when we go for breakfast, because the rest of the days I've been using to film the whole complex, get some bits done with Bob. So the windows I've been fishing have been quite small, but they've been extremely productive, which shows just how good Bay Lake is for a few bites. Now the first night was actually a really good one for me. I had a few bites, including a 32-pound mirror, I believe it was, which is the start of the trip. So really nice way to start. Well, the first night, and the rods have only been out a matter of a few hours in all fairness. On the first bite, 31.8 it was, wasn't it?
32.8.
32.8. After a little bit of a sleepy state of weighing it with the mat in front of me, it did read over 40 pounds, so I quickly put it back in the water and went and got Bob. When I got back, I thought, nah, it's not 40. But it's a good start to the session. Hopefully, many more to come. And the following bite was a bit of a strange fight. When it popped up, I thought, that's a big old chub, and it was my first ever grass carp, and they're actually very, very rare to the bank in Bay Lake, so that was quite a nice little surprise. And at 25 pound, although it's my first ever grass carp, it's always going to be a PB, it's quite a good size one as well. And then got up this morning and filmed a nice 40 pounder for one of the lads over on Long Lake.
Great start to the week, first night, nice 41-pound mirror off the Long Lake.
Had breakfast, which was a lovely fry up with everyone. Got back, put the rods back out, and I say about half an hour later, this one's just gone off at 24 £4. Really nice battle, well, good fun battle. It tried getting me in the pads to the left. It's a good old scrap. Great fun. Not bad for 30 minutes fishing this morning. The rod was straight back out after this, because I think I'm gonna go film on another lake later on with Bob. So I want to maximise this morning window. But if nothing else happens, I'm sure something will tonight. Although it is England's first game in the Euros, so I'll be watching that in the lodge. So I had a few fish on the first night, and following nights I've had several more bites, including multiple other 20s. There's one common in particular, I think it was 24.4, but really cool character, really angry on the mat. The dorsal was out, the fins were out. Proper nice looking comments. I really, really enjoyed my stay on Baywatch. And also whilst I was over there, Bob was fishing up at the top end with Andy. He's been having some fish whilst I was filming other bits of him as well, which you'll see in a second. But as you can see, I have now moved over onto another lake, and I did my first night on here last night. So I packed up all the stuff before tea last night, loaded it all onto the trailer, which is one of the services that Bob offers on here. So you can move your kit around nice and quickly. So don't worry about having to lug it all around the complex on your own. You can get help moving it around. Once in the swim, gave me a little few pointers on good spots to use. I was talking to some of the other anglers that are currently on here as well, where they've seen some fish. There's a really nice feel of the whole place. Everyone's here to help each other, enjoy your week. And sure enough, Bob's advice and the anglers either side of me that told me where they've seen fish all came good. I think it was about 3 AM I had a take, and that one was a low 20 common. And then this morning, I think it was about 7 AM, my same rod again, the right hand rod, which is across to the far tree line bust off. I say bust off, and fishing pretty locked up with pegs on the front. So a few beeps and the rod started going, and I was convinced I'd lost it. It was gone in the snags. It was bent double, giving it some stick, and I just thought this one's come off. And sure enough, it pinged a few times. I thought that's it. But then I thought, no, this stick that I think I'm hooked onto is actually going to the left. So sure enough, there was still a fish on there, and I got it all the way into probably a couple of rod lengths out, and that's where I had about a 10-minute battle of just up and down the margins, under the rod tips, give me a right old run around, but finally slipped over the net cord, and it's a bit bigger than the previous one, and coming in at just over 31 pounds. It's another 30 for the trip. But that's enough about my trip. There's been lots of other anglers here at the same time. So we'll start off with Baywater, where Bob and Andy have been fishing quite a lot. I've caught some of the fish on camera whilst I was up there with them, multiple 20s, some backup doubles as well, just stacks and stacks of fish. And again, they're only fishing small windows, not like the fishing all day, every night, all day. We're actually just doing filming, going up for a few hours before tea, a few hours after tea, and catching lots. So that just, again, solidifies and cements the style of fishing you can do on Baywater. Get lots of bites, but still have some good quality fish. And moving on from Long Lake, you then got Elf Lake. Now this is the one that is right next to the lodge, the one that you can look out over. And this is where Duff in particular is having quite a good trip so far. He had an early success with a low 30, but this morning I had a text on my phone to go and film something a bit more special. And at £50 4 ounce, he's over the moon with catching something of that size. So it may not be as many bites as some of the other rest of us have, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people would opt for a 50 over lots and lots of bites. So that's how Elf Lake is doing. And last but no means least, you've got the Old Lake. Now this is where Rob and a few of other people are fishing on there, and Rob's had a really good session as well so far. He's actually top rod on that lake, and he's currently holding the biggest fish for the week. He's had multiple 30s, and I think the biggest one he had was 57.10 if I remember correctly. So an absolutely monstrous fish, and he's having a really good time over there. So that just shows how many fish are coming out across the whole complex, and we're only 4 days in, so there's still a couple of nights left to go, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty more fish. Well, it's now the Thursday morning, and we're going into my final full day and night because I'm heading off tomorrow. Everyone else is going to be staying on a little bit longer than me, but that's me for the week. And I've had a really good time so far, and there's still plenty of time ahead of me to catch some more. Last night we were treated to an absolutely beautiful double rainbow over the whole complex. So I did whip the drone up and try and get some shots. Absolutely stunning. And once the sun went down, that's when this swim came alive once again. I think I just nodded off. Then I had to take on this rod, which is across to the far bank under the trees. And that was about a 23-pound mirror. And as you can see, as I was about to film that one, my other rod went off. Thankfully, I was able to land that second bite as well, and they're pretty much 2 peas in a pod, or at least size-wise, because the first one went 23 pounds and a few ounces, and the second one was 21 pounds and a few ounces. So nothing huge, but still nice to get a couple of bites. Rods went back out, and I went back to bed. I think a couple of hours later on, this rod went off again. Unfortunately, I lost that one, and it was so middle of the night. I was so tired, I didn't put it back out. A few fish have been showing this morning, but it is time to bring the rods in and head up to the lodge for breakfast. But that's not the only action on the complex. You guessed it, Rob's had a couple more. He had a couple of 30s, which lovely fish once again. But the star of the show was Duff, because this morning he caught an absolute whacker. I'm just going to leave you the raw footage from what he just caught.
What have I got?
62. I think it's about 62.4.
I've got to take the sling off.
Got to take the sling off, yeah.
Okay. Look at that. Bent the bank stick. 59-pound dead. Les Quis beauty. Oh, that is heavy. And she's off.
And away.
Come on.
So that brings you up to speed with pretty much all the carp that have been caught so far as of Thursday morning. Time to bring these rods in and head up to the lodge for breakfast. And it's worth talking about the breakfast and the food in general, because you get breakfast every single morning, a nice fry up as much as you want really. So it always sets you up for the day. You don't have to worry about cooking stuff yourself. It's quite nice to bring the rods in, have a little break, reset yourself, and then also maybe have a shower and that when you're down there, which I'll get onto in a second. But in the evening, you also get a variety of different meals as well. We've had roast dinners, barbecues. There's a whole range of different meals that we've had down there. But whilst you're up there, there's also a fridge with cold drinks in that you can cool you down, especially this week. We've had some pretty hot weather, and this is nothing compared to the last time I was here heat-wise, but it's really nice to have a cold drink and somewhere a bit sheltered, out of the way of the sun, and just have a nice social with everyone else. Also up there are the 2 toilets that are completely flushable, so you're decent ones, not one of these portaloos on the side of a lake. They're decent toilets, and a couple of decent showers up there as well. None of these little trickling ones out the side of a shed. Proper waterfall shower, so you can get nice and refreshed for your day. So you're fed, watered, showered, and relieved, and then you get back to your swim. So it's really nice. You've got all those features on site. And also up at the lodge is a massive charging station, a whole wall of sockets. So whether you need to charge your phone, your tablets, or whatever, you can charge it there. Right, time to bring these in, go for breakfast.
So that's going to be 42.
Yep.
Banging, mate.
Nice. 8 fish now.
What's
I
that,
think
240s?
240s,
57.
a 57, and loads of upper 30s. This one was 42. I've had a 57, 3 40s, and the rest have been 30s.
What sort of size are the 30s, Rob?
All upper 30s. 38s and 39s, yeah. Awesome. What a fantastic week we're having down at Les Quis. Brilliant venue. Right, Curly's only just gone about 40 minutes ago, and this has just rattled off, and it's just a scraper 40 common, and it's absolutely stunning.
Unfortunately, it was pretty quiet in my swim this afternoon, but that doesn't mean there weren't fish caught elsewhere. I was having a little snooze on the bed chair when the messages pinged through on my phone saying, Curly, there's a fish to film over on Old Lake. So I headed over there, and it was a lovely mid to upper 30, I think it was, for Gregor, and he's on the swim that just before it goes around into the bay at the back of Old Lake. As I was there was a cheer from the other side of the lake as Rob once again caught another one at 43 pounds. So he's currently top rod for the week, so he's very happy. He's having loads of really nice fish. After that, all headed up to the lodge for the evening meal, which was pork chop with all the trimmings, which is absolutely lovely. I'll get more onto the facilities, the food package and everything that's here. But before then, I'm gonna get the rods back out and head over to Bob, who's gonna tell you some of the key tactics to use when you're here.
So everywhere new you go, it's always nice to have a starting point on what system and setups are working for people. For me, this is my go-to. Small section of tubing, going down to a running weight system, whether you use leads or stones. I'm a big believer in the Palatrack stones, caught millions of carp, chub and barbel on them over the years. The reason we use running rigs is 1, bite indication. 2, I don't agree with dumping leads or dumping weights by purpose. Why would you? This gives, like I said, this gives you a lot better bite indication when fishing to margins or even when dropbacks might occur, bits like that. So the running system on here we found to be a lot more effective, and the hookup ratio, where everyone was using lead clips, the fish were getting a little bit wary, sometimes using that weight to bump the hook out. Whereas with this, when they pick it up, that weight slides away from the rig, and it's very difficult for them to use that to abort your rig. Moving down from that, just a buffer bead or any bead you like to protect your swivel. I use quick links, each to their own, it's not that important. Now at the business end, I normally use a 6 to 8 inch fluorocarbon rig. On here, you do have little poisson chat, which at certain times of the year can tangle up supple and soft hook link material. So I normally find myself using fluorocarbon around the 0.38 to 0.42 diameter. I think this stuff here is 16 pound gamma, going down to a size 6 wide gate Palatrax grips. As you can see here, I've got 3 grains of maize on this rig, and there is quite a big separation between the hook and the bait. We found this to be very important, and again, just resulting in putting more carp on the bank, which at the end of the day is what you're here to do. All my rigs that I use, whether I am using a braid or no matter what, I am always got a good separation between the hook and the bait. It's absolutely deadly on this venue. Another rig which I've caught a lot of fish on over the years, again going to this fluorocarbon rather than the braided materials. I will note, if I do use the coated braided materials, I find myself not stripping anything back, trying to keep it a little bit more stiff than really supple. And again, like I said, a long hair, having that separation between the hook and the bait can be all the difference between having a really good day's fishing or not so much. My third and final rig to show you, maybe a little bit different to what everyone's maybe used to using in France. So this is a combi rig with, as you can probably see, quite a small hook there. It seems that a lot of people think they come to France, you need big hooks because the carp are bigger. That's not always the case, especially with these small hooks. They get in, they hold really well. This again is a wide gaped grips pattern in a size 10, a small section of 30-pound braid. After the section of braid, this goes down to a 0.48mm diameter fluorocarbon. This stuff here is gamma fluorocarbon. I swear by it, it's never let me down. I feel like the stiffness is there to help that hook turn over with a very little bit of movement for the fish when they pick your bait up. So again, you can see I'm using a very long hair. This rig, I'm normally using a small hook bait, normally 2 or 3 grains of maize. I've caught so many fish on this rig recently, guys, so don't be afraid to try smaller hooks. So moving on from the rigs and tactics, we'll move on to bait. And bait here at Les Quis is very important to us, hence why we only allow people to feed the bait that we provide. And as you can see from this video, the results speak volumes. So all the baits that we provide are of very high nutritional value, very, very soluble bait, full of fantastic ingredients to make sure you get the best possible results from your week's fishing. So we advise strongly that you use at least 25 kilos of bait for your week's fishing. The last thing that you want is fish to move in on you and you haven't got enough feed throughout your week to keep these big fish there. And like I said from this video, as you can see, there's been some amazing fish caught this week. Here at Les Quis, we offer 4 different options of bait. This means there's a bait here that suits everyone, and the fish love every single one of them. They're constantly fed and constantly looking for these different baits. These fish see this bait week in, week out. It does everything it needs to do. In fact, all these bait are a complete diet, so the carp don't need anything else. To my left here is the Palatrax bait. You have a jungle, which is nut-based, and then a very, very natural multi-worm. And this bait speaks volumes when it comes to catchers at Les Quis. To my right, we have the new house bait for this season. And this was designed very closely with a very reputable bait company. Some top ingredients, including low temperature fish meals, a very soluble bait that breaks down very quickly, and also very, very palatable. So it means the bait can come straight out the freezer, straight into the lake, and the fish are looking for it instantly. As you can see also, we have a different variety of hook baits to go with each of the options. So there's something here for absolutely everyone.
Well, my trip here at Les Quis has come to an end, and it's the final morning, and usually I like to get nice lake scenic shots and everything, but the rain has had other ideas, and also so has everyone else, because I've been going around like a blue ass fly filming stacks and stacks of fish. It all started last night when I had my first bite of the evening, thinking here we go, it's going to be a productive one. A 34-pound mirror. It was a great start to the evening, and unfortunately things dried up for me in this swim, so I did get a good night's sleep until first thing this morning. My phone was buzzing off with Bob saying we got a few fish to film, are you up? So I was, so I went down to Elf Lake. Now this is where Bernie's been fishing, and he had 2 fish in the net from a very quick succession of bites, which I think was a mid-30 and a mid-40. After those 2 were slipped back, we had another call that there was another one on the bank at the point of Old Lake. So we headed over there, and that was a lovely upper 40. So already that's 2 40s and a 30, but we weren't done there. On the way back, Scouse next door to me had a 40 as well, and that one was at 44 pounds. So at the start of the week, I filmed a 40 for him, and at the end of the week, I filmed a 40 for him as well. There's been lots of fish in between, but we're still not done. Whilst I was filming that one, we had another phone call from Rob, who seems to be getting loads of morning bites in his swim. And sure enough, we went over there, and there was an upper 30 and a lower 30, which you'll see now. And that brings us up to speed to now. I think the last hour and a half I've been running around. I've slipped over twice, I'm caked in mud, smell of fish, and they've not even been my own this morning. But it's been an incredible end to an incredible week. And as I've said before, this is my last official shoot for Carpology, and I couldn't think of a better way to have ended it. A week long in France. The weather's been hit and miss, yes, but the fishing has been incredible. The company's been great, the food's been great, the beer's been great. There's so many positives to this. It's not just a fishing trip when you come here. It is more of a holiday, more of an experience. So I highly recommend you come and visit Les Quis at some point in your fishing life. Unfortunately, these didn't go off one more time in the morning. I was hoping it would end with an absolute whacker for me. It wasn't to be, but that's just more of a reason for me to come back in the future. Thank you once again for everyone that's watched me over the years. I'm going to try not to get emotional here, but that is me signing off for apology. I didn't think I'd cry.